Driver. Sorry about all that mess with Oppie. There's no question, Oppie is a once-in-a-generation genius. I've watched her manipulate wavelengths with nanometer precision without batting an eye. So, to see her go from being the sharpest person in the room to what she is now is disappointing. This place, it leeches away your sanity day by day. So for Oppie to live here in complete isolation, locked away with only bad memories and expired medication, nothing good comes of that.
I'd feel a hell of a lot better if I knew why she suddenly cares so much about the remnants.
Speaking of Oppie, you're not gonna like this, Francis.
But I'm starting to think we can't do this alone. Look, it's not that I doubt our abilities. But no one knows the zone like that old bat.
You heard what she said. She'll sabotage this remnant before helping us.
Right. Well, she'll come around to our charms.
No, she won't. Nothing in the 13 years we spent in R&D prove that she's open to working with anyone. She dug her heels in so deep that she wrestled everyone down into the grave with her. I can't be involved if she is.
What are you talking about? This is the entire reason we stayed behind, to write the record of the zone. Not about the experiments and the technology, but to tell the legends of the land.
I don't want anything to do with her. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want her advice. I don't want to hear her goddamn voice.
This isn't like you. What's going on, Francis? Is there something I should know?
No.
All your work in limb R&D, all the time you spent, your entire career, your entire life. You sacrificed it all for Ada, and how did they thank you? With a black hole in your resume, where you can't tell anyone what you did. You couldn't even tell people where you wiped your ass for 10 years. So no, I'm not letting this go. Not for me, but especially not for you.
That's not... Never mind.
You know, sometimes I wonder, how much of you staying here was actually to hunt these legends? Or if it was because you had nowhere else to go.
Welcome back. This is Frequency File, Episode 2. In the last episode, I told you about the curious case of Dr. Ophelia Turner. When it comes to this enigmatic individual, one of three versions is true. Myth, martyr, or monster. To be able to weigh her in turns as heretic, genius, or scapegoat, we must first set the stage. When I started down this path to discover who she was, what she did, and ultimately what happened to her, I didn't expect it to lead me to one of the strangest mysteries of the Pacific Northwest, the Olympic Exclusion Zone. But let me rewind a bit. In Northwest Washington State, there are 3,600 square miles of vibrant wilderness called the Olympic Peninsula. Bounded by water on three sides, it was a wonderland for outdoorsy types, with snow-capped mountains and salmon-bearing rivers and pristine rainforests. Up until 1955, it was the residence of 100,000 people, including Ophelia Turner. It was her birthplace, her hometown, and, it turns out, ground zero and sacrificial lamb for the promise of limb technology. In true fashion, the government never comes out and says that's what led to the creation of the Olympic exclusion zone. But the chain of events were in plain sight. Strange accidents, leading to the government's claim of eminent domain and subsequent seizure of the peninsula. The evacuation of 100,000 people, and the attempt and abject failure at containing the rumors that spread like wildfire. Because it turns out, even with the government's resources at your disposal, keeping secrets is a tricky business. You can bet there was plenty of talk as a result. Lucky me, because I had plenty of questions. Here's what we know. Over 50 years ago, in November of 1946, Dr. Ophelia Turner was 27. She had recently returned home to the Olympic Peninsula to lick her wounds after a failed stint in academia. In a fit of obsession or redemption, or, quite frankly, both, she cobbled together a laboratory in her basement and produced the first limb wave on nothing but a killer hunch and plain ingenuity. Or so the story goes. It's never clearly stated anywhere what limb waves and limb technology really were. It's all vague claims and wild theories, dreams that border more on the mystical than the scientific. What we do know is that limb stood for unlimited frequency. Radio waves, once souped up and modulated just right, supposedly enabled the control of matter in a way that modern science both back then and now could only dream of. After Dr. Turner's discovery, she and a few friends, scientists and PhDs all, toyed with limb in their garage labs for about 4 years. The local police and fire departments start making regular house calls, spurred on by increasingly disgruntled neighbors calling in about incidents that seem to grow larger and more disturbing as the years go on. After one too many reports, the federal government takes notice, and thus begins their severe interest in limb technology. The next part happens quickly. In 1955, the United States government seizes not only the physical area where Dr. Turner and her scientists live, but the entire concept of limb technology. The area is at first evacuated under the pretense of safety, but quickly commandeered by the government. They establish a brand new department called ARDA, Advanced Resonance Development Authority, which was to be headed by Dr. Turner herself. Over the next 15 years, the government expands the zone's borders. They clear out civilians as they go and erect massive 500-meter walls to keep out an increasingly curious public. The zone started in the northernmost tip of the peninsula, then expanded outward twice. Once in 1961, again in 1967, to the outer perimeter we see now.
You ready, driver? Okay, first off, I've loaded up 3 locations on your ARC device map. You see them? Head to whichever strikes your fancy.
You're sending them to the Visions?
Sure am. We're gonna use this.
My optical vassalizer. We shouldn't use that.
Why not?
I mean, it's been decades. No way that thing is in any sort of working shape.
I've been fixing her up in secret, and I'm sorry. Don't be mad. It was gonna be a surprise for your birthday. Oh, I've gone ahead and made an itty-bitty modification to your headset, driver. I've hooked up the basilizer here to modulate your scan function. Think of it like an extra layer of mayonnaise on your technology sandwich.
What are you using the vassalizer for?
No spoilers. We have to tell the story from the beginning. Driver, get ready to feast your eyes on the Visions.
So we told you about the mass hallucination. Hundreds of people, 30 seconds of crazy, yada yada. But there was one instance where that event and the remnants intersected. The story of Laura Cesari. Laura worked at ARDA as an executive secretary. She put in her hours, but she spent her evenings with a real passion. Painting. When the hallucination hallucination event swept through, Laura was overtaken like everyone else. But for her, the visions didn't stop. She tried painting them, but grew frustrated at her inability to recreate what she saw. Now at first, Lana wrote her off as one of the many whose brains got scrambled by what they saw. Until Laura stumbled across a rusty can of paint in the woods. It was a remnant. Once she started using this paint, the visions in her paintings began to come true. She painted feverishly for over a year, chasing the visions the entire time. Until the day the paint ran empty.
And then she disappeared. Like all remnant holders do.
Now that we know the remnants and the mass hallucination are related, maybe Laura's visions can help us out. This is where your theory comes in, Francis. You tell him. Oh, look at me babbling away. Francis, you explain it. It's so good.
No, it's just... I'd rather not.
Hey, come on, we talked about this. You should be proud of your work. Toot your own horn.
Not this time.
Okay, well, Francis' theory, his entire branch of research was that the zone exhibits a property seen nowhere else on Earth. Every phenomena that occurs here leaves its fingerprint forever on the physical space. So he created this device to pick up on these sub-physical after effects. How did you explain it? It was like identifying a whale's favorite color using only the wake it leaves behind. The rest was science mumbo-jumbo.
It's a form of electromagnetic imprint. Anyway, it was a long time ago.
And what a better time than now to try it again?
The Great Pile-Up. You know, if you catch the mural at the right angle, when the moon is right overhead, you can spot the helmsman's body in one of the boats.
No chance. It's a paint smudge. Nothing more.
Believe me, it's true. I've seen it.
Hey, is it just me, or did this mural look different before?
Probably the instability messing with the paint over time. It's been decades after all.
Nah, something's definitely off. Hey, where's our old notes from when we took a field trip out that way? Driver, why don't you go ahead to the next one while we investigate this?
No, I'm telling you, the helmsman never made it out of the zone. He died here.
Not this again.
I still don't know why you're so convinced they existed in the first place.
Driver, back me up here. This is how the story goes. It was the winter of '72. A ship set sail down the Columbia River 100 miles east of here. The helmsman was overcome by bad weather, and while in a particularly foggy patch, the boat hit something, and the impact threw him from the deck. When he woke up, he was on a boat on this very lake, smack in the middle of the zone, with no idea how he got there. He had with him a ridiculous amount of cash and paid anyone and everyone to get him out of the zone. But no matter how he tried to leave, on foot, in a transport, he would always head into a fog and reemerge on another boat. At last count, the Great Pile-Up was 20 boats high and 30 boats wide.
A limb duplication glitch, nothing more.
And you, of all people, blaming Limb Tech instead of a good old-fashioned mystery?
It doesn't add up. Artist's favorite pastime was carting people out of the zone. How could someone actually fail to escape? And a mysterious man with a backpack full of cash, and the one place he can't spend it.
Seems awfully fishy to me. The mural. My personal favorite. Oh, did you see that, Francis? Oh boy, Francis, look. Look here, it's different from our sketch when we visited in '82.
It's all scrambled, but the shape seems familiar. If you tilt your head, doesn't that kind of look like Mount Olympus?
Oh, Francis, you flippin' genius! It absolutely is! Wait, let's look back at the first one. What's different there?
That shape right there, is that Hook Valley?
Holy smokes! Oh, wait, pull up all the topographical maps of the peninsula. If we look around the areas where you'd get that view of Mount Olympus... See, Francis? I told you your basilizer would work!
I don't think this is the Basilisers doing.
Driver, we're on to something. Get to that third vision.
Driver, if you come across a mushroom like the one in the mural, do not eat it. No matter how tasty it might look.
You're speaking from personal experience. And let me tell you, it wasn't pretty.
Oh, just thinking about it makes me want to puke all over again. You've probably passed the biogenerators by now. They're our source of power in the mid-zone, and one of the best demonstrations of renewable limb tech. Yes, these battery farms keep our lights on, but more importantly, they're also the only place in the entire zone where anomalized mushrooms grow.
And guess who turned out to be the world's biggest fan of those mushrooms? Bigfoot itself!
And the vision foretold its arrival in the zone.
It started when those pods hanging from the battery farms were found chewed up.
At first, they blamed it on the local wildlife. This was back when we used to have some. Then, the sightings of 10-foot-tall creatures started. That didn't attract much attention on their own.
Not until the first footprints were found.
The Olympic Peninsula has always had a collection of Bigfoot sightings, but they were rare until Bigfoot had its first taste of the anomalized mushrooms. Then it couldn't stay away. And that's when the Squatches came knocking. They jumped the walls, set up camp, and they got to investigating. Once they learned of the Sasquatch's appetite for these mushrooms, they cultivated entire farms of the stuff.
For months, they propagated mushrooms and set traps. And for months, evidence mounted that Sasquatch was making its rounds and evading those traps. Until one night, the experts disappeared.
Bigfoot got them, no question.
Come on, all 8 at once? How is that possible?
Never get in the way of a hungry Sasquatch.
So about that last vision. I can't. Yeah, I can't even look at it.
Francis, you explain it.
And maybe you've already seen them, driver. A freestanding bright blue door in its frame, out in the wilderness with nothing around it. If you do see one, don't get anywhere close to it.
I don't want to talk about it.
He was pretty close to a doorway when it opened. It's called the inverting doorway. When the door is shut, it's safe. But once in a while, it opens, and everything near it is turned inside out. Its victims are mostly bears,
Squirrels and birds, they all go through hell. Meat and bones on the outside, fur and feathers on the inside. It's not fun to see. Once, a group of hikers didn't heed the warning, and...
No, we're done here, driver. If you see one, you stay away from it. That's all you need to know. Let's go.
the inverting doorway.
No, I don't like this one.
Oh, bingo!
See that pattern in the last mural?
That flower only grows above a certain elevation. put the 3 locations together, and you've got a square mile in the northeast corner of the deep zone. Huh. The visions were pointing towards something the entire time.
Hey, Oppie, you can stop pretending to ignore us now. Take a look at this. Fine work. We've pinned down the location for the source of the mass hallucination. That's where the driver needs to go.
Well, what do you know?
Well, I knew the basilizer worked. What did I tell you, huh?
He still doesn't know, Francis.
Know what? Oppie?
Not my story to share.
My theory, and that basilizer, they're, illegitimate.
Wait, what are you saying?
I built that device to prove my imprint theory, and it was on the verge of getting the results I needed. But my research funding was running out. So, I forged the data. Not much, just enough to justify more time. I was so close. I knew the breakthrough was right around the corner. But Arda found out. That's why I was reassigned, and my clearance revoked.
Wait, you told me you changed labs voluntarily.
8 years of research with nothing to show for it, and then for that to happen, I couldn't face you.
That doesn't mean your theory is wrong. I still think there's something to it. There's a common thread with some of the remnant stories, like the telephone switchboard, the ones that seem to recall the past somehow. Maybe the remnants access those imprints, read them like a needle in the groove of a record.
Don't. You don't have to do that. It's in the past. I don't care about it anymore.
But listen, I've got this suspicion, right? If we can just get the car to the mass hallucination source, what we find they can prove your theory. It's worth a try, isn't it?
I'm tired of trying, Tobias. I've tried all my life, and it didn't go so well.
Look, I don't have one of those fancy degrees that you and Oppie have. The closest I ever got to science was wiping down your lab benches. But I saw the incredible things that you did with your research.
Yeah, well, Arda didn't think they were incredible.
I don't care about Arda. I believe in you. Always have.
I'm sorry. I can't. I can't do this with her. Oppie led the disciplinary committee that stripped my clearance and demoted me to a glorified intern. She sat there and decided how best to humiliate me. I never asked for anything. This one time I do, so I would never have to talk to Oppie again. You didn't listen. Your remnant was more important than what I wanted.
Francis, I didn't mean...
I've had enough.
Let's... He'll come around. Sorry, driver. We'll see you back at the auto shop.
Interesting thing about that deep zone area you identified. I ran every coordinate in that area through the auto database, and what turns up?
But access logs with entry records for Dr. K up through March 1963.
What? No, the doctor died in 1961. And then the lab accident.
So we were told. Then, I found access logs for both that deep zone site and Red Meadow. Years and years worth of activity.
Red Meadow Research Facility? But it was demolished the same year. After the structural damage caused by the... They lied about that too, didn't they?
It appears so. The driver should give the Red Meadow ruins a visit. If Dr. K didn't die that day, I'd like to know what was keeping him so busy.
So would I, but... Do we have time for this? We don't know how long the driver's got with that remnant.
And that's why we need this information. Whatever Dr. K was doing relates to all of this. It may be the key to what lies at the end of the road for the driver.
I... agree with you. God, I hate saying that.
Driver, I've marked the Red Meadow facility on your route planner. Head there whenever you're ready.
multi-stage evacuation of the Olympic Peninsula's 100,000-strong population, the records get sketchy. Once the region is swept clean of civilian eyes, the flow of information trickles to an eventual stop. ARDA has always maintained that the evacuation was done in the name of national security, that there was simply nothing more patriotic than sacrificing your homes, with the communists plotting our demise across the Atlantic. Certainly not because there was any danger from the strange experiments happening inside, or situations most unnatural to witness. ARDA kept a wide berth, displacing citizens far ahead of the front line, so first-hand accounts of things going awry were rare. But rumors spread fast, and everyone had some story about a distant relative whose pet changed in inexplicable ways, or a friend of a friend who followed strange lights into the woods and never returned. Once the civilians cleared out, the ARDA employees moved in. Scientists, officials, support staff, and their families made the Olympic exclusion zone home, reaching anywhere from 300 to 1,000 in total at its peak. What any of them were doing in the zone was kept hush-hush, but the population just outside the walls found secrecy irresistible. Every shipment of raw material, out-of-season weather pattern, and inexplicable light or sound became the talk of the town for the first decade of the zone's existence. Listeners, I tried. I really did. I started my investigation in the usual fashion, digging up every piece of public record I could get. The paperwork is maddeningly typical up until 1955. Census records, soil samples, weather reports, hand-drawn survey maps, the beginnings of satellite photos, all readily available for anyone with the patience to walk themselves into a county office. But those materials don't tell me much, and I quickly am forced to turn to more dubious sources. Before the downing of multiple passenger planes and the subsequent establishment of the no-fly zone in 1962, crude aerial photos are taken and circulated. This is where things get interesting. I find fuzzy shots of what appears to be entire mountains relocating overnight, buildings disappearing and reappearing at random, and lakes filled with water or light, depending on the time of day. The resolution is dubious, making them inkblot tests in their own right. They are the stuff of dreams among amateur investigators and conspiracy theorists alike. The most outlandish, improbable, and extremely unverifiable stories came from breachers, people rumored to have jumped, tunneled, hot air ballooned their way through the walls. If they're to be believed, there is much to be uncovered. But more on that later. LIM technology is not paraded around in the press for long. As the government withdraws acknowledgement that it ever existed, the public's interest similarly begins to wane. Last verifiable activity is an exodus of ARDA employees from the zone, beginning in 1981 and followed swiftly by a full decommissioning of the zone in 1987. After which, those 3,600 square miles are sealed away and left behind with no explanation. A tomb, minutes away from the populous, perfectly normal city of Seattle, with decades of history and secrets locked inside. And that is where I'm left to fill in the enormous, ill-defined gaps.
Oh, jeez. You know, I remember Red Meadow like it was yesterday. You up to your eyeballs in paperwork. Francis coated in chalk dust from the blackboards.
You mistaking my lab notes for a trash pile and throwing away weeks of work?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see it again.
They bulldozed that facility to the ground. There's nothing left to reminisce about.
regret all this?
From the very second I heard your voice coming through my speakers.
I mean, everything that happened here. Handing over Lim. The way the project ended.
It cost you Alan. You know, your career. The entire damn Olympic Peninsula. And you're still here.
So are you. You chose your urban legends over everything else.
And you wonder if I regret it?
Oh, I have no interest in regret. I want to know if you ever felt that leaving was a real option.
After everything I've seen and heard?
And felt here? No. Not a chance.
Then we have that in common.
So, what did Alan tell you about his work? He was second in command of Dr. K's lab after all.
Alan didn't discuss his work with me, nor did I share mine with him.
Wait, you were head of the whole stinking department.
You must have known something about what their lab was doing.
If there was anything useful to be found, I'd have sussed it out already. Well, that's all I did after the accident. Tried and failed to find any answers. I'll bet my flask that Dr. K was hiding something here. And we'll find it at his lab. Dr. K's access records were coded to the lab that used to be here.
I'm feeling less optimistic by the second. Now to scour this place clean.
Something's here. We just can't see it.
Oh, following a hunch. Not your usual MO, Oppie.
No, but being suspicious of Arda is.
Whoa, driver, hang on. Where are you going? That should have been the end of the facility.
According to the blueprints, anyway.
Security protocol activated. Scan Arda's security credentials immediately.
Well, well.
After all these years, and Anna still has something to hide. We're definitely onto something now.
Driver, anything you find down there, scan and transmit it back to us. We'll work on disengaging the security protocol.
Okay, here's something. This thing in the deep zone, they called it the Well.
Oh, fantastic. Tobias, run those reports through the decryptor and see what you can find. You'll like this, Tobias. Your remnant origin story, if you will.
Let me guess. You're about to ruin a good urban legend with a bunch of science.
Fine, I'll read this one myself. Nice work, driver. We'll review these and summarize our findings after. These lab notes are complete gibberish.
What about these diagrams, though? It looks like he was trying to convey something.
You can admire the doctor's newfound art skills all you want. You won't find anything useful in them.
This is a decrypted record of the accident. Oppie, are you sure you want to hear this? It's got details about Ellen's final moments.
It's been over 30 years. I'm past ready. Go on, driver. Keep snooping and see what else you can find. Husband sent us something useful from the grave after all.
And you're all clear.
Give us a moment, we'll let you know what we found in all this data. You can make your way back to the auto shop after you're done scouring the place. And driver, thank you.
Driver, you hit the jackpot. We've got a lead on what you're heading toward in the deep zone. Tobias, give us the rundown about the well.
ARDA classified it as a hotspot of ultra-high energy gamma radiation. Its eruptions were spontaneous, and ultimately ARDA made no conclusion about what caused it, when it would blow, or how destructive it would be. ARDA, of course, wanted to control this bottomless well of energy. So they brought in Dr. K and Allen to research activation and containment. They discovered a way to reliably trigger the well, and that was the remnants.
And that's what the remnants have been looking.
This second report's a good one. Ready to hear where the remnants came from? The original remnants were created in Dr. K's lab. They aimed to create a trigger for activating the well by infusing objects with a carefully calibrated limb wave. The ones that shared a resonant frequency would...
Yeah, just get to the good stuff.
You know, you'd be a much better ghost hunter if it weren't for that unfortunate attention span. Reading this makes it obvious how the remnants ended up in the wild.
Wait, what? How?
The gamma ray surge that caused the mass hallucination event. That energy irradiated everything within a 10-mile radius. Objects with the right characteristics absorbed that energy and became the remnants people found out in the zone.
Wow. Francis would get a kick out of that one. I'll tell him later.
I've reviewed Dr. K's lab notes. Now we know what he was doing in that lab after the accident. Spinning in circles for years.
His injuries were real. Dr. K's radiation exposure should have been fatal.
And the minute he could stand on his feet again, Otto shuttled him right back to his lab and bid the monkey to dance.
They allowed him to carry on in the hopes that he would reproduce anything useful. He worked for 2 whole years before they quietly retired him from his post.
I'm sorry you scrambled your brain. Here's your pension. Bye. You got that accident record ready, Tobias? It's time.
Okay, then. September 14, 1961. ARDA's finalized report on what happened that night. Dr. K and Allen were testing the activation potential of lab-created remnants. That night was a run-of-the-mill remnant test. Nothing out of the ordinary. The remnant in question was a tungsten cube. At 3:23 a.m., the cube was brought towards the well, and the well reacted at nominal levels.
However, at the 500-meter distance, the cube was sucked into the well and triggered the gamma ray surge. The energy output continued ramping up, and at 15 seconds, showed no signs of stopping. Then, Alan...
Go on. I can handle it.
Dr. K testified that Alan engaged the suppression protocol, then the kill switch, both of which failed. Dr. K ordered Alan to get to safety, but Alan insisted on staying at the controls. Only when he flipped the radiation polarity did the energy output plateau, then collapse back into itself. Alan's
Gamma radiation exposure was fatal due to his proximity to the well. With him, the entire zone might have gone under.
That's who Alan was. Loyal until the very end.
I'm sorry, Oppie.
I'd expect nothing less from him. Once that car gets to the well, we can expect another gamma ray eruption. We'll need a way to cut it off. And I may have found the answer in Alan's lab notes. His work on that suppression technique
Was top-notch.
What's interesting is Dr. K and Alan didn't know any more than we do now. They had no conclusions about what the well is.
Or what the remnants did. Or how they interacted with this well. Maybe they're ladles that scoop out a metered amount of gamma radiation. Maybe they trigger an eruption that we can't stop and will destroy the zone if we get it too close.
That's a hell of a range. What are we going to do?
We keep going.
But if it's an eruption...
I already sacrificed the Olympic Peninsula once for Lim Tech. How many chances for total and utter fallout does a gal get in her life, huh?
In another life, we would have made a fantastic team.
In no universe would I not have murdered you in your sleep.
Now we go into the deep zone. Easy peasy.
except for the issue of the old wall.
Right, yeah.
That. You got some genius idea up your sleeve, huh?
Is that how you think it works? That scientists conjure up genius at will?
Well, yeah. Do you?
Well, in this case, I do. But don't expect it to work like that every time. Driver, the quarantine checkpoints will be the best way through the old wall, but they're death traps in their own right. But I designed something to help. Check out the blueprints I sent over. The old anomalies took up residence in the crossing points. It's not enough to have a shield. The shield itself needs to be shielded.
The energy drain on that shield is massive. It won't last you more than 5 seconds.
Yes, and?
You'll need to recharge on the go, but the Deep Zone's grid is completely dark.
You know, what if we could reroute our power into the Deep Zone? But we'd need to jumpstart the network somehow.
That car is basically the world's most overpowered electromagnet on wheels. The driver induces a current, then you open the electrical floodgates.
They'd have to induce the current the entire way through the old wall while making the crossing and maintaining speed.
I don't know what to tell you. If you don't believe the driver and that car's got what it takes by now, then go back to hunting ghosts. We've got a job to do here.
This could work. Are you in, Francis?
I don't know.
Look, we have a real chance of losing everything at the old wall. I'd like to not fail this far along.
How can we know this will work?
We don't. That's how science works. We form a theory, and we test it, and we fail. And fail, and fail, and only sometimes do we succeed.
Come on, Francis. Please?
Fine. I'll do it.
All right. The team is assembled.
Driver, get on with building that limb shield. We'll work on spinning up the power grid in the meantime.
Hoppy, I gotta ask. Were you around when the old wall was nearly breached?
You want to know if I was involved?
I mean, sure. No one knew more about where anomalies came from than you. Heck, I mean, the only reason anyone knew anything about anomalies was because of the research branch that you four started to build.
Yes, and we developed ways to prevent anomalies, not create them.
You can't prevent something if you don't know where it's created in the first place.
So you did pick up a thing or two around us scientists.
All I know is, Arda didn't give two craps about anomaly prevention. You fought uphill the entire way.
Never thought I'd see the day where you'd sugarcoat anything coming out of your mouth. The Harmonic Disruption Research Lab was an abject failure. No, I wasn't involved, but I stood by and let it happen.
By that point, the LIM project was in a bad way. Either it found a breakthrough and justified the government resources it was sucking up, or the entire project was put down. Everything depended on this technological quantum leap that evaded us for decades.
In response, all good sense went straight out the window. For every wonder pulled out of thin air, LIM technology conjured increasingly greater horrors. But it was done in the name of progress, and we were powerless to stop it. The Harmonic Disruption Research Branch was all I could do to soften the atrocities Arda unleashed in the name of progress. I tried to clean up my mess, but I failed.
So that's the history of the Olympic Exclusion Zone. We know it absolutely existed, and that something blighted the area. Dr. Ophelia Turner was a real person who grew up there, and LIM technology, claimed to be her invention, was the reason the zone was created. The facts point to either the pursuit of LIM or the technology itself doing something terrible to the area, and maybe even to the people who stayed behind. For such a vast, valuable area as the Olympic Peninsula to be lost to the world for the indefinite future, someone needed to take the fall. The evidence in this corner paints the target square on the martyr part of this equation. Or did Dr. Ophelia Turner know what she was unleashing upon her homeland? If she did it willingly, then she would have been a monster. But if the government strong-armed her into it, then she would have had no choice but to become a martyr. To answer that question, we need more information still. How do you force 100,000 people out of their homes without facing major resistance? Even if you're the United States government, facing down what's being peddled as the greatest threat our nation has ever faced, the answer is, you don't. This is Frequency File, Episode 3, The Human Cost. Last episode, I reported all the cold, hard facts I could get my hands on. If you missed that episode, here's the summary. There wasn't much. Now, we jump tracks to the stories of the people, to knit together old records and eyewitness accounts to form some fabric of the true story. Whoever's job it was at Arda to suppress stories did a really good job. What they did to keep that sheer number of people from talking, and then to smear the stories that did come out, was a masterstroke of obfuscation. Unfortunately for Arda, the cases that made it all the way to court became public record. The facts were these. Arda played nice at first with a generous relocation package. They offered cold, hard cash and built sprawling housing complexes in nearly every state to resettle the former residents. These new communities were built as idyllic, white picket-fenced neighborhoods where you were sure to be surrounded by all-American families who shared your same values, while enjoying the benefits of government-subsidized grocery stores, school districts, and manicured public parks. Not a bad deal from the looks of things. When it came to the holdouts, the people who wouldn't leave for any amount, things got ugly. But in the end, The government won out, as it always does. And while the government has the sovereign right to seize private property, the Fifth Amendment mandates just compensation be paid for it. But it doesn't specify when or how this compensation be made, and many dissenters ended up with nothing through good old loopholes and bureaucracy. Some of whom are still pursuing their claims to this day. But the chilling thing is, those left with empty pockets consider themselves lucky. There is a saying they mutter amongst themselves under their breath, that at least they had the luck to not live in Sierra.
You're not the first to try crossing the old wall since the anomalies moved in. But we'll make sure you're the first to survive. 2 things to keep in mind. First, to get through the old wall, there are 5 crossing points. You need to induce the electrical grid the entire way by driving the car close enough and fast enough along the conductors. You'll see them as you go. Once you jumpstart the grid, Tobias will route the midzone power your way, but no induction, no power, no crossing. Second, watch your battery gauge. You will live or die by that thing. Got it? Good. Start by connecting the power grid at the first crossing point. The controls will be up in the observation tower. There are old shuttle stops at each crossing point. Use them to recharge your battery and hope they're still in working condition after all these years. Tobias, how's the power routing?
Well, the neighbors are complaining about the flickering lights, but I told them to light some candles and sit tight.
Francis?
Levels are good, holding steady. Keep it up, driver. Battery farm 6 core's overloaded. I mean, it's shutting down.
We can't lose the remnant. I won't let it go.
Get back inside. The radiation's peaking.
I've got to repair it. I'll be damned if I'm gonna let this plan fail. We're too close. Your theory, we can still prove it.
Stop. It's too dangerous out there. Tobias. Please, Tobias, come back. Tobias, please come back.
I'm at the battery farm. The fuse box is completely liquefied, but I can bypass it.
Francis, I need you back at the control board.
Not now, Oppie!
The minute Tobias reroutes that line, you need to push the connection. Miss it by a split second and we lose the entire power grid.
No. Almost ready?
Please don't do this!
Francis, it's now or never.
Tobias! I'm rerouting the grid now. I'll be ready for you.
Give us a signal, Tobias. Tobias? Stay with us.
I got you, Hoppy. Friends. Well, what do you know? One time, I find myself out of things to say. Hoppy, take care of him for me.
Tobias!
Francis, I love you forever.
I love you forever.
Power's back online. Francis, now!
Tobias, answer! Please, Tobias, answer me!
Don't do it! You can't go out there!
Driver, the power's holding steady. You could open that final gate. The entire area got scrambled in instability.
told you. I told you, didn't I? We weren't ready. We should have planned it better. We should have known.
We did the best we could.
No, do not give me that. If we had, he'd be here with us.
I'm sorry, but we've got to help the driver.
Don't you dare. What? Wait, is this how you dealt with Alan's death? You put your head down and let work fill the gaps?
Actually, that's precisely what I did. And you'll recall the breakthrough in self-healing materials that I made that year.
Oh, well, good for you. I'm sure Alan would have been very proud of you using his death that way.
You know what? That whole pep talk I gave you before to convince you to go through with it. That's precisely the same crap Alan would tell me all the time. It's worth the sacrifice. Stay late. Don't worry about me. Finish your work. Then we can start a family.
Always he'd spew that crap.
So why'd you say it to me?
Because he has to have been right. Because if I let myself think he was wrong, then I can't live with that regret. I gave everything for Lim. This is the last thing I'm holding on to for myself. Every single day I still think about how if I had left the zone when we had planned to.
I wouldn't have lost Alan. I hoped that Lim Tech was done killing our own. I'm sorry about Tobias.
Tobias was all I had. I need to sign off for a while.
We'll be here when you're ready. Glad you got through, driver. Power on that stabilizer, and I'll see you back at the garage. Welcome back. Now we know where the well is, but you're the first to step foot in the deep zone in over 15 years. And I need more time to understand Alan's suppression method. So why don't you stretch your legs and chart the deep zone while you're at it? We'll need to map a way to the well as it is. Francis, I don't know if you're listening. A while ago, you asked me why I cared so much about the remnants. It's because I saw Alan the night of the accident, during the mass hallucination. Except, I'm not sure it was a hallucination. We had a tradition. When we were both working late, he'd swing by my lab for a coffee break at some ungodly hour. That night, he visited. We talked. The coffee burnt my tongue. Nothing out of the ordinary. Seconds later, the gamma ray surge swept through the facility, and the roof caved in. I looked for him in the aftermath. I couldn't find him anywhere, because he hadn't been in my lab. He was ground zero at the accident site, miles away in the deep zone. But I saw him, touched him, smelled his cologne. He was there, possibly there, more than a hallucination.
You never reported that?
Admit to Arda that I communed with my husband's ghost. When they were already looking for ways to push me out, not a chance. I gave them my technology and my home, but I'd be goddamned before I let anything destroy my professional credibility.
And this remnant?
It's my last chance to know if what I saw was true. If it came from the well, or if it was all in my head. Things we spoke of. Things I couldn't have made up. Never mind. I know how it sounds.
Like you've seen a ghost.
Good news. I can replicate Alan's suppression method. We'll stand some chance of halting the gamma ray burst from the well. 30 years later, my late husband still manages to impress. Figuring out how to keep you alive once the reaction gets going, however, that's harder. But I have an idea. Francis, I need your ear.
Go on.
We know that as soon as the car gets to the well, the trigger will be instant. Once this remnant expends its energy, gamma radiation will erupt from the well, and the driver will be at ground zero taking the worst of it.
Can we activate the gateway as soon as they make contact?
It's tricky. Too early, and we may interrupt whatever reaction process the remnant carries out. Too late, and it's bad news for the driver. There's too many unknowns. Only the driver will know the right time to use it.
How can you be sure they'll live long enough to make that call?
The ARC device has been transmitting data every single second since it was installed. Every drop of fuel, every spark plug that car's lit, I have on record.
You've been running an experiment this entire time, with the driver as the guinea pig.
The mere act of being alive is the biggest experiment of all, dear.
Is that another one of Alan's sayings?
That one's all mine. Driver, we've seen that car protect you this entire time. It's triggered a gateway in your time of need. It's ferried you back to the garage through every circumstance and obstacle and bump in the road. So we can trust that it'll protect you long enough to get you away from whatever and wherever you end up.
Still sounds like a heavy dose of blind faith to me.
Could be. Oh, there's one last part to this, and it's waiting for you back at the auto shop. Take your time. Enjoy the view. What do you think, Francis?
It could work.
It will work. We don't know anything about the well, but the driver doesn't have to go in completely empty-handed.
You're removing the ARC device's limiter and overloading its charge capacity.
Right. So no matter how much energy the car's getting blasted with, the ARC will be able to overpower it to open a gateway. It's the only way to extract the driver from whatever's going to happen at the trigger point.
And then we use Alan's suppression technique to keep the whole thing from completely exploding? This sounds like a lot.
It's what we've got. Driver, go on and install that ARC device modification. We'll spin up the suppression system in the meantime. ARC device mod's looking good. Now you can head out and overcharge it. We'll give you instructions when you're en route.
Witnesses to the CRM disaster that are still alive. Most aren't willing to speak to me. The one eyewitness account remains the most damning report of what happened. Meet Lou Arganza. She was 9 when she last saw her parents alive. You were born in the zone.
Yes. Born and raised in CRM town until it wasn't a town anymore.
Lou was evacuated from the zone on February 13th, 1973. Can you share what you remember from that day?
Sure. I was at a week-long wilderness camp. This yearly thing my elementary school would put on. They'd throw the kids into the woods, show us how to pick apart animal droppings, sketch birds, things like that. It was my favorite thing as a kid. But that year, I really didn't want to go. Something called the Limb Fair was coming to Sierra, and I begged my dad to let me stay. He told me I could see it the following year. Well, that obviously didn't happen.
Give us the rundown, Francis.
What, me?
The electrical grid is your department.
You know the plan as well as I do.
So you'd rather trust me than have to speak up for yourself?
Guess you're on your own, driver. Good luck.
Okay, fine. The regular anchors aren't enough to overcharge the ARC device to the level we need. But there's an old anomaly barricade we can piggyback onto. It's archaic technology, an early attempt to stop anomalies from
Drifting out into the wider Olympic Peninsula. It worked for some time,
Until it didn't.
but long enough to get the old wall built.
The barricade's in bad shape, but what's a little rampant voltage leakage? Not like the ghosts and goblins of the deep zone will mind. And if they do, all the better for Francis. Huh?
Appreciate the olive branch, Oppie, but boy, do you have a lot to learn about the paranormal. I'd be happy to give you a primer after all this is over.
Ugh, hard pass. I'm far too old for that.
The car will induce a current along the barricade, in the same way you did it crossing the old wall. Every connection point needs to be induced within a limited time. Electrify the entire barricade, and we'll have all the power we need.
You heard him. Floor it, driver.
You're near the barricade's operating station. Can you get in there and look around? We need something that'll give us the lay of the land.
Perfect. I'm uploading the barricade map to your ARC device. By my calculations, if you electrify all 8 posts, you'll have all the power you need. Oppie, does that seem right?
Does it seem right to you?
I think so. Yeah, I ran the numbers a few times, and
Then get to it, driver.
Readings at 4.2 gigajoules and holding steady.
Good, then we're all set. The ARC device is ready to go. It'll hold that charge for as long as we need it. Pedal to the metal, driver. Storm's coming. Nice work out there. The well could be a lot. Take your time and gear up. No telling what that remnant's going to unleash.
Hey, driver. I sent you something, if you don't mind taking a look. Tobias's favorite cryptid of them all. If it's not too much to ask, if you could put it on your dashboard, so Tobias can come along for the ride, for wherever you're going. But don't feel obligated by any means.
This is really it, huh? The end of the road. Soon we'll finally see for ourselves what caused the mass hallucination and what Tobias and Alan died for.
And whether it was all worth it. Francis,
Yeah?
thank you for trusting me when you had every reason not to. Getting to this point together with you, it makes me feel like my old self again.
It's been an honor to watch you work, Dr. Turner. gamma readings, are they real? I can't even begin to guess what could be outputting this much radiation.
Some sort of energy reservoir, a massive fission reaction, or
A portal.
Atlantis.
If this thing really leads us to Atlantis, I'm turning in my PhD.
God, if only Tobias were here to see it.
I would have liked to hear his take on all this. For once.
All right, driver. You're almost to the threshold. Remember, Francis and I have got your back. Once you get that car to the well, we'll keep the gamma ray burst under control for as long as we can. Whatever happens, whatever state you find yourself in, the arc device will be your safety net. Use it. Get back to us, you hear me?
Ready when you are, driver.
It's opening? Godspeed, driver.
Hoppy? Hoppy!
Did it work? What's the energy output? Damn it, Alan, I'm fine. Light nearly blinded me. Can you read it?
Yeah, let me see. 500 kilojoules? Hoppy, what is this?
The future. I call it limb waves.
Coffee delivery.
Alan, gosh. Is it that time already?
So, about leaving Arda. I was thinking, how about by Christmas?
Yes, maybe. I just need to solve this instability issue. I loathe to think about leaving the Olympic Peninsula like this.
There's always more to do.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I love you for it. I'm just wondering if you'll really be able to walk away from all this. It's okay if you can't.
You abandoned the world to work here beside me. Fair is fair.
Len Tech is a world-changing discovery. Your world-changing discovery. Fairness isn't even a consideration.
We agreed to have children, and I'm not having them in this hellhole.
Good, because I'd love to have 8.
Then I hope you're ready to carry at least half of those yourself.
I love you.
I love you.
Tobias, the movers are here. Wait, why aren't you packed?
I ain't going.
The evacuation orders...
Evacuation orders can go to hell. We leave, and we never see the inside of these walls again. All the things we've been investigating, the ripple, the echoes from the swamp, they'll all fade away. I'm gonna stay and chase down these stories, wherever they take me.
Tobias,
Stay here. With me.
You here to close?
I'm here to deliver the committee's decision. You have been found guilty of doctoring experimental data. This action is in clear violation of Arda's scientific integrity. Judgment has been rendered. You may stay and work, but your clearance will be lowered to level 3.
So I'm to be a glorified flask cleaner.
Take it as a win. You could have been court-martialed instead.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have liked that much better.
What I like has no bearing on this decision. See you on Monday, Dr. Cook.
Driver, do you read me?
Driver, you passed through some sort of opening. We managed to hold it steady, but the energy expulsion is growing. We don't have much longer.
If you can hear this, you need to get back now.
Hey, look! The gang's back together!
Tobias?
I never told you how grateful I was that you stayed behind in the zone. With me. These years, best of my life. Foraging for mushrooms, slogging through swamplands, combing through hours and hours of terrible field recordings. Not a single moment wasted. Thank you. For everything.
It was all you. You made me feel capable. That anything was possible. That I wasn't some second-rate scientist. All my happiness was thanks to you. And I'm afraid of how I'll survive without you.
I'm not. You got this. You always have. Hey, Oppie. Alan sends his regards. He wants to know why you haven't taken his advice yet. Driver, is that a gumbaroo on your dash? Oh, I'll be damned. Bye. Until next time.
Tobias! Tobias!
Driver, if you can hear this, we can't keep the well stable for much longer. Wherever you are, come back.
Hold steady, Francis. Keep those limb faces aligned. Not even a .001 deviation, you get me?
I'm trying. The anchor field is wobbling. Oppie, anything we can do to stabilize things on your side?
Punching it as hard as I can. Francis, hold tight.
I can't. The fade, it's sinking.
Driver, punch it. Go! You made it back, driver. All in one piece, it looks like.
And no sign of the Remnant's energy signature anywhere in that car. You're free.
But the car's maintained its link to you.
Fascinating. We'll never know how far the Remnant's obsessions wormed into your head, but you should be safe from it getting any worse. In theory.
Oppie, I'm sorry. You didn't get to talk to Alan again.
We managed to pull off the near impossible. And the first thing you do is apologize?
Sorry. I mean,
Don't worry, it was Tobias's fault. He hogged the frequency all for himself yet again.
you heard him too.
I did. That means I didn't imagine that last conversation with Alan. And you know what else?
What?
That your theory was right. And Tobias called it. All that bluster, and he ended up showing us scientists a thing or two. Those moments we heard, they were all from the past. Being inside that well somehow allowed the Remnant to access those imprints and replay them. But Tobias's voice wasn't from the past, it was from somewhere else entirely.
Where? And how?
No clue. Do me a favor. Once you figure it out, don't bother telling me. I'm leaving the zone.
I'm sorry, what?
Alan came to tell me goodbye, and that I was forgiven 37 years ago. I didn't listen. So now, finally, I'm going to take his advice. I should have left the zone a long time ago.
But if we solve this, maybe there's a way to speak to him again.
I heard what I needed to hear. It only took me 37 years to listen. Anyway, all that sounds like a young scientist game. It's not for me anymore. Francis, you decide what to do from here. You can carry the torch and continue the research, or get out of this cursed place and find your own way. It's your decision. And driver, you're free now. You can do what you want from here. But if you'll allow an old woman one last hope, stay here with Francis. There's so many more stories for the zone to tell. And the both of you are young enough to listen. My ears are bad. And I refuse to hear them. I've removed all access restrictions to my systems, Francis. The helm is yours.
Wait, I don't know if I can do this alone.
You're not alone. You've got clear eyes, ears open to the impossible, and the driver. Dr. Cook, driver. It's been a pleasure. This is Dr. Ophelia Turner. Signing off.
Oppie? Oppie! Really? Well, driver, if you don't mind sticking around with me, Oppie was right. There's still so much of the zone that we still don't know about. But with your help, we can tell those stories. I'm no Oppie, but I'll do the best I can. You're no longer bound to the car, but it's stayed with you and will continue to protect you as you travel the zone. Go on then. As long as you're willing to drive, I'm along for the ride.